Hi, Deepthi.
Hi, Devashi.
How are you? Thanks for joining.
No problem at all.
Oh, it's recording. Ah,
We can stop that, can't we?
yeah, probably.
Everyone. Okay. Recording in progress too. So welcome everyone to our third event of Link and Share, one of the limbs of the Link program launched by the Australian National University Medical School this year. A program to connect people for collective learning and excellence around the globe. My name is Jamila. I am a medical student here in Canberra, Australia. I'd first like to begin by acknowledging the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people, who are the traditional owners of the land where we are broadcasting to you from today, and I pay my respects to the elders past and present and emerging. For those of you who are new today, Link and Share is a platform that hopes to bring together medical students across the globe to provide opportunities for them to connect and share their experiences and stories, to engage in meaningful discussions with peers and experts, to create platforms to provide peer support, and to foster student-led innovative global initiatives. We welcome the participation of medical students and student bodies across the globe. So if you'd like to volunteer as an individual, or if your medical school would like to collaborate with us on the program, please contact us via email, international.health@anu.edu.au. So just quickly, a couple of housekeeping notes before we do hand over to our speaker. During the entire presentation, please submit your questions as they come through, and they will be answered by our speaker after his presentation. If you don't wish to be identified, you can also submit your questions anonymously. Also, keep a keen eye on the chat box. We'll be including the links and more info on the program and today's event as well. And if you have any questions after the talk or the event, please email, once again, international.health@anu.edu.au, and we will try to assist you as best as we can. And finally, please note that this event is being recorded. So I now have the pleasure to introduce you to our guest speaker for today's event, Charles. Charles is an MD PhD candidate at Duke NUS Medical School in Singapore. His thesis work primarily revolves around the use of novel serological platforms for the identification of encephalitis etiologies. Charles is currently serving as the president of the Asian Medical Students Association, AMSA, in Singapore, and has worked in various small working groups within the International Federation of Medical Students Association. So he'll be sharing his experiences about what life is like being a medical student in Singapore, how the pandemic affected education and training, and the ways in which he and his peers were actively involved in the pandemic response in Singapore. This will then be followed by a virtual speed networking session open to medical students across the globe to connect, engage, and interact with their international peers. Over to you now, Charles.
Thank you for that very nice introduction, and wishing everyone a good afternoon, a good day from Singapore. So I'm not really sure like the different time zones that are present in this call, but yeah, it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon here in Singapore, GMT +8. Let me share my screen. I think it's this button. You guys can see my screen, right? It's visible. Okay, cool. Right, so today's my talk will be quite short. I'll be talking more about my MD PhD journey when I'm currently in Duke NUS Medical School. So Duke NUS Medical School is one of the medical schools under the National University of Singapore. It is a joint school that has been founded by the National University of Singapore as well as Duke University that is in North Carolina. So our curriculum is mainly based on the Duke North Carolina curriculum, the Duke University Medical School curriculum. But our degrees are jointly given or provided by the NUS, the National University of Singapore, as well as the Duke University. Just a very quick background. And this is a bit about myself. So I actually did my undergraduate in Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. I'm originally from the Philippines. I was then I up until like my high school. I did my high school all the way until high school in the Philippines. And after that, I did my undergraduate BSc with honors at the Nanyang Technological University in Singapore, BS Biological Sciences. I finished in 2016, and then I entered Duke NUS Medical School right after. I initially entered under the MD class, entering class of 2016. And in 2018, I converted to MD PhD, and where I'm at now. So I'm currently in the MD PhD program, year 5 in PhD, and hopefully I can finish by 2023 or 2024. So that is my general outline of my university education from 2012 until 2022. It's about 10 years already. So Duke NUS curriculum is a bit different from the traditional like medical school curriculums, I would say. And the reason for that is because Duke NUS like only has 1 year of basic sciences. So that means that instead of like the traditional 2-year program for basic sciences, is actually condensed to 1 year. So as you can see in this year, this is actually the curriculum graph for Duke NUS. We have 4 years of education if you're in an MD program. So I'm showing the MD version of this. You have like from July to year 1 of your year 0, I would say, to end of year 1. That would basically be all your basic sciences curriculum. So you have the molecular cells and tissues, which is the basic molecular biology and biochemistry stuff. And then this is followed by the human structure and function, which essentially is anatomy and physiology. So I think there's 2 blocks of it, about 14 weeks, 13 weeks or so, followed by neuro, so brain and behavior, and followed by body and disease, which is pathology. And that ends in like evocation and transition, and you start year 2. So year 2 essentially is a clinical year, it's a clerkship year. You tend to go around different hospitals, seeing different specialties. So yeah, there's like medicine, surgery, ONG, etc. And that goes into year 3, where you do a research or a scholarship. And this essentially is like a research. I won't say it's a year, it's actually less than a year. But what they allow you to do is the program allows you to do some scholarly work with the idea of like being able to present or being able to publish it. Although of course it's not required. So some people do publish, some people do actually go overseas for a conference to showcase their work, but it's not required. So if you are in the MD PhD program, you will do year 1 and year 2 like your peers, but when you go to year 3, instead of doing the research or scholarship component for 8 months, you will do your research and scholarship for 5 years, which is the PhD component of your studies. So that is where I'm currently at, about 4 to 5 years. And when I finish my PhD, or when people finish their year 3 research and scholarship work, they can actually go back to clinics. So they will have the clinical year, or part of the year for clinicals, and year 4 for advanced clinicals and electives. And you end up finishing the course. You finish off as PGY1 or the postgraduate year 1, which is house officer in essence. And you do your graduations as well. So this is the general curriculum for Duke NUS. It's a bit different, I would say, from the traditional like medical schools, and it's also a bit packed. This is a research component in it in the 4-year program. So some of the pictures I'll be showing now is like are from my year 1 and year 2 years, which is like a long time ago. I think that was around like at least 5 or 6 years ago, I would say. And as you can see, this is actually my seat in the classroom, and I'm actually studying anatomy. And for those of you who are sharp-eyed, you will see that this is actually the inguinal region. So I'm trying to figure out like different walls and the ceilings and the floors of the inguinal canal. That is these are the days when I'm studying for exams. And in our clinical year, or even in our basic sciences year, we're actually assigned to teams. So we actually work in the teams. And the team is essentially like composed of 5 or 6 people. And these will be your buddies for the year, for the whole year, and even for the 4 years, because usually what will happen is that you guys will still hang out together and share the same team until you graduate. And then that happened for my team. And my team loves food. As you can see, we eat a lot, and we like to go out and enjoy foods in this because our school is close to a lot of like food places, and then which is not bad, which is actually quite nice, I would say. Our school also has some sports activities, and this again is before COVID. As you can see, everyone's not wearing a mask. And it's actually quite common back then to actually have these kind of events outside the school. So this is our school onto the, I'm not sure if you can see my pointer. This is our school onto the left. Yeah, you see that people are watching the basketball game. This is, again, before COVID, it's with our clinical tutor. So this place is actually the CPC, or the Clinical Performance Center. So what it is essentially is actually a place for you to practice your clinical physical examination skills. This is me. So I actually lost quite a bit of weight before, like after clinical years. And as you can see, this with my team, again, this is our clinical tutor. This is us after our posting, a clinical posting in one of the hospitals in Singapore. I believe this is like ONG, obstetrics and gynecology. And we're all like, knocking off after work, after our posting actually, so the last day of posting. So we do have, for our posting, we do need to like clock some hours, we need to do some procedures, and we actually are given these logbooks. So in these logbooks, you get to write the cases that you see, the procedures that you do, and get them signed off. I think nowadays, this is like 5-6 years ago, as you can see, 2017, 2018, this 5 or 6 years ago. Nowadays, things are online. So things like nowadays, I know you have to basically log your cases online and get the prof or the doctor to actually sign it off by email. So this is actually another view of our classroom. So for our school is not a very big school. I think each year would be around 60 to 70 students, and there's only 4 years, so that totals to about 300 students at most. So people would tend to know each other. And one of the things that we do in the school is we do a lot of senior teaching, and this is actually one of our senior teaching activities where we actually come back and try to like help the juniors prepare for their exams, or prepare for like their OSCEs, or prepare for, in this case, I think this is actually preparation for their like their dissection classes or dissection exams. So as I am in the MD PhD program, my teammates actually will finish first, and they have finished first actually. They graduated in 2020. And this is the picture of us with them at their graduation. As you can see that I'm actually not the only one not dressed in a graduation outfit. The rest of them are graduating or had graduated already. So that is the MD PhD program, you finish later. So what is it that I do in my PhD, since I talk about a lot about my PhD program? So essentially I do bench work as well as computer work. So I do both sides of like, I do like a wet lab stuff. So I pipette, make reagents, do experiments in the lab. At the same time, I code. So that's basically what I do in the lab. If you guys want to know more, you can ask me during the Q&A section, but I won't go into detail because I don't want to bore people. So in our PhD events, we do have like symposiums, like activities like this, for example. So these are with my MD PhD friends. I believe Kai Wei is in the call. This is Kai Wei right here. And this is me. And we are basically presenting our work to the school. And this is Kai Wei as well. So I give him a special picture here. Yeah, you see him explaining his work. So if you want to know more about his work, he's in the call and you can ask him later as well. He's also an MD PhD. He's my classmate. So this is a random lab lunch. So our lab also likes food, I guess. And we go out to eat during lunches or dinners, shown in this picture. Again, more food. So in our PhD program, we do have this student research seminar. So this essentially is held like, I think every Thursday. Is it Thursday? I think yes, it was every Thursday. And what happens is that people would come in and present their work. So they do a journal club. And they basically like, after each journal club, there's food. So people would come in, listen to the journal club and eat as well. Of course, because of COVID, it's online and it's now held via Zoom. So there's no more free food for us. So this is the lab that I'm in. So this is the group. It's actually quite a big group. And yeah, so this again before COVID, there's a Christmas party. And of course, after that, we don't have this kind of gatherings anymore. Hopefully it can resume soon when, COVID becomes endemic, I guess. And so I was actually in the PhD program when COVID happened. So my clinical training wasn't really affected, although my classmates' clinical training was severely affected because for them, they can no longer come into like, they can no longer come in and do clinical work for some time. So a lot of their sessions, a lot of their lessons are actually held online. So for us, because our lab does COVID work, so we're actually allowed to go into the lab still, even during the what we call a circuit breaker, during the lockdown, local lockdown. And this photo was taken during COVID, but before the mask mandate was issued, so people are not required to wear masks at that time. And we basically came into the lab and do some work. So we do some experiments and we do some work on COVID, developing a kit to help detect neutralizing antibodies for SARS-CoV-2. So of course, I will now talk a bit more about my CCAs, etc. during my PhD years. This is going back in time again, 2019. I joined AMSA Singapore. So this is one of our trips to Thailand. This is a Steer Thailand trip where we actually saw we actually get a field learning experience about assets-based community development. So this is me and outside the Maytao Clinic. And this is us, this is the group in one of the village homestays where we actually learned about sustainable farming and sustainable agriculture from one of the local residents. So back to the lab, 2020 October, for PhDs, you need to do something called the PQE or the PhD qualifying examination. So essentially it allows the school to determine whether or not you're good enough to continue your PhD. So I finished my proposal, and at that time, I think it's a bit later because of COVID. And these are my lab mates who are also MD PhDs, Walton and Vivian. And I'm just celebrating that, I finished my proposal and I managed to pass the exam. So I guess, so I get to continue my PhD. So I was also fortunate enough that at that time we're looking for people to showcase, I think, for Singapore's COVID response. And I was selected by the producer to appear on this on this show to talk about what we do in our lab and what we do, what I did or what I helped with. I would say, this is not driven by me; it's driven by the professors and the postdocs in the lab, and to talk more about what we're doing, what we're trying to achieve. So if you're interested, you can watch this video. So I guess the biggest impact for COVID onto me as a student is the requirement of for me to actually log in my temperature. So I have to take a picture of my thermometer every day back then and report it. And I think later on, I think earlier this year, we're actually required to swab ourselves at least once or twice a week and report the results. So to make sure you're negative before you can come to work or come to school. So the COVID restrictions were generally being eased, I would say, earlier this year. And we actually had the opportunity, the MD PhDs of our school had the opportunity to travel to the US for conferences. So this is something that is done by all the MD PhD students of our school. But again, because of COVID, it was stopped. But nowadays, because COVID's restrictions are being lifted, then we managed to actually travel to Chicago to the joint meeting for the, it's like a physician scientist meeting where we present our work. And again, this is us enjoying the food, Chicago food. So MD PhDs is, I would say my journey is I see a lot of graduations. So actually this is, we're celebrating the graduation of our MD PhD seniors here, who is in this picture, Mate and Johan, these two persons. And I think they have graduated this year. And so that is showed to us we can finish as well, even though it will take more time. So I'll just do a quick plug for Kai Wei, who is in this call. So if you want to know more about day in the life, just in form of video, this is you can follow him in his YouTube channel. And this is, I think there'll be videos here that talks about how MD PhD life is, or what MD PhD life is like in Singapore, in JUCAN in particular. This is his reasons for the channel, his Instagram, and again, yeah, you can follow him if you want. So I think that's all for me. And I'm happy to take any questions. So I'll stop sharing. And
that was really interesting. Thanks so much, Charles. I really enjoyed the food pictures. There's some feedback in the chat. Evangeline was like, oh, those viral plaque essays are bringing back bad memories. But yeah, thank you so much for giving us sort of a glimpse into the life of a medical student in Singapore. And of course, yours is a bit more exciting with all that research and conferences and whatnot. And yeah, congratulations that you were featured. I didn't know that. That's amazing. And obviously you're doing amazing work with AMSA Singapore. So now I'd like to open the floor for questions. We've already got one in the chat, which I'll just read it out to you. Apart from enjoying your group feeds, what made you pursue PhD?
Thanks for the question. Well, PhD. So I'm a person, I really like science. I'm into infectious diseases. I strongly believe in the power of science to help improve the lives of people. And that's why I pursued medicine and science. The question for me at that time, the question was, when do I pursue my PhD? When do I do research? Is it before I do medicine, during medicine, or after medicine? And upon discussing this with the seniors and with friends, and I actually came to the decision that I think it's best to do it within your medical school years. And the reason for that is when you're doing PhD after you have been certified a doctor, you would lose that 4 or 5 years of time when you do your research. And that would be quite difficult, especially if you're already a practicing physician, because you need to remember your skills. Like you need to remember things like, like how to insert a drain, how to, all these kind of things, which you'll forget if you don't do it often enough. And that is what actually I'm experiencing now, even in my MD PhD component, even if I'm currently having MD PhDs, because I haven't seen a patient, I haven't actively been seeing patients for like at least 4 or 5 years, things will get rusty. So our school actually allows us to, get back into shape by giving us like maybe once every month or twice every month tutorials, bedside tutorials to actually get our skills back up before we actually go back. So that is the reason why I pursue PhDs. I'm interested in science. I believe in the power of medicine. I believe in the power of science in combating infectious diseases. And I hope that answers the question.
Yeah,
Definitely does. Yeah, so I asked the question, mad respect, because I think we need more people like you, because people like me run away from research, because I think it takes so much effort, so much of reading paper. So that's awesome. So are you going to go back to clinical training once you finish your PhD, 2 years of that, and then become PGY1?
So I'll be finishing, in theory, the earliest is March 2023. So that's about like 8-9 months time, I would say. And we do 1 year of medical school. So that's the capstone, the final year. And then we become PGY1. So that year actually allows you to catch up with whatever you forgot, whatever you have forgotten for the past 5 years, and make you a competent doctor. When you exit medical school, you will know your stuff. So that's the idea. Yeah.
100%. Other questions? Just opening the floor. You can type it in the chat box. You can just shout it out. No? I had to follow up, Charles, to what you said about the PhD thing, that it's better to do it during your medicine, because I was told that it would add value to your career long term to do PhD during med school if you know what you want to specialize in. So do the research in the area in which you want to become a specialist. Only then it will add value. But then so many of us are sort of in the boat where we do not know what we want to specialize in. So how did you go about finding that clarity of not having been in the hospital, not being in the field? How do you know which specialty you want to go into? And then, okay, this is what I want to do my PhD in. I mean, I know it's a hard question, but yeah, anyone can answer after Charles, if anyone else has more clarity.
I think for mine, it was clear. It was not very murky, I would say. I knew I wanted to do infectious diseases. I was inspired by the SARS outbreak, the first SARS outbreak in the early 2000s. Then we had bird flu, then we had MERS, then we had Zika. So I actually saw the importance of science in combating these infectious diseases. And I mean, of course, we all have heard about smallpox as well. How vaccination, how a ring fencing of the disease case actually helps in stopping smallpox in its tracks. And now we don't have smallpox, right? And that actually, these things actually inspired me to say that, with a lot of the human sufferings that we see, a lot of them is actually caused by infectious diseases, emerging infectious diseases. And that is the driver for me to pursue a PhD, hopefully pursue in the future, a career specialization in infectious diseases. So that's why I did ID, and that's why I'm in an ID lab. So I would say in my PhD is a bit more of serology. So we're looking at antibody responses to different infections, different diseases, and even autoimmune conditions. So I think for me, it was clear. So that's why I knew, and I think that's a good point though. Yeah, if you want to do a PhD, it will be better to do it in something that you want to specialize in. Although having said that, I feel PhD is more than just studying something in depth. It's actually learning, getting the experience, learning about the procedures, learning about how to run experiments, learning how to think as a scientist. And these things are sometimes they're not taught. You have to, that's why you have 5 or 6 years of time to do PhDs for you to actually pick them up slowly. And that's how I guess, how I guess it is. So even if you're not really sure what you want to specialize in, doing a PhD might actually help you like sharpen your critical thinking skills, so that like what is it, how a lab operates, like how to run experiments in the lab, like how to pipette and all these things, because these things require skill, this thing requires time. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
I can add to that, Devashi, considering that I'm the only one with a PhD, unless there is someone, and I've missed
I don't think so.
I think in our department, we have people who've done PhDs even before they joined med school. And I did mine after I completed my fellowship. I think Charles is absolutely right. If you can manage to do it in the area that you are likely to work in, then that's best. But even without that, I think it just changes your whole perspective, that research element. It changes how you approach clinical medicine also, and it certainly teaches you that research methodology. So I highly recommend it. It's a lot of hard work, but I think it really changes you.
Yeah.
Have you found that, Charles? Is it how do you think you have changed since you've started the PhD?
Oh, well, I'm not really sure, because I haven't really been back into the wards, so I'm not really sure like how it changed me. But now I get to see more of the details, right? So because in clinic, when you do your clerkship, you'll just see this is the disease, this is the treatment, this is the complications from the disease, these are the side effects of the treatment. That's it. But if we go to like things like in research, when we go like in a PhD, we actually go back. We actually go beyond whatever's being taught in the textbooks, and we try to explore more of what is like unknown. So that's the idea of research, right? We try to analyze the unknown. We try to shed light on what is not yet known, and that is the job of a scientist, I would say.
And I think the papers also, you are able to understand the research papers that you read as part of your literature review or as part of your studies a lot better once you've gone through that training.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
I really like the what you said about dealing with the uncertainty, dealing with the unknown, venturing into that area, because that's quite an uncomfortable space. And you do come across situations in your clinical practice where you have to sort of do things you've never done before. Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Any other questions? Anyone wants to shout out or?
So for those who have just joined, we had Charles from Singapore tell us about his MD PhD journey. So we're talking about the benefits of doing a PhD while you're doing your medicine. I think
it's
India who have joined in.
I
think
encourage
it's-
everyone to, oops.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
Now, I was about to say that different people have different I think doing PhD is definitely a rewarding experience. It's difficult. I'm not saying it's easy. It's actually quite hard, but I think it's actually a rewarding experience. Like you slowly get to what you're trying to achieve in 5 or 6 years time. Like you're trying to shed light on certain matters, certain experiments, certain scientific questions that you might have. And you don't need to be a PhD holder to do research in medicine. You don't need it. Okay, I know a lot of MDs, or MBBS even, to doing research, doing very good research here in Singapore, and I'm quite sure as well in Australia you have these examples. So you don't need to have a PhD to pipette in the lab and all these kind of things. And I would really encourage everyone to explore this field, even if you don't want to do a PhD. Just try to do research, and it is something that is fulfilling. It is something that is, it's something that brings, I feel it's actually a very important component of the medical profession, because, as doctors, future doctors, we are at the forefront of knowledge. We always say we're evidence-based. So, how do we produce evidence, right? So we have to do research. So that is perhaps one of the more compelling reasons why everyone should do research, even not for a PhD. Yeah.
So ANU, it's compulsory. So all the ones who are here from ANU are required to do at least a 1-year research project.
Okay, that's good to hear. Same as for our school, we have the 6 or 9 months, I think, of research. Everyone has to do it unless you had like some exemptions or you're doing a PhD. Yeah.
Yeah, and we do have the MD PhD pathway as well at ANU. Yeah, so yeah, definitely research. Awesome. Any other thoughts anyone else wants to share?
Yeah, I guess you can open the floor to Kai as well.
Yeah,
What his experiences
meeting
have been,
celebrity.
the reasons, and man's popular, YouTube popular as well. So some tips.
What question in particular?
Or just like what your experience has been while in the MD PhD program, and your reasons for pursuing PhD as well.
Or any other opportunities, domestic, international, for other students here from other countries, I guess, that you're aware of. Anything?
I guess I would like to echo what Charles said. So the value of doing a PhD during the MD program, I think one of the things is what he mentioned about protected time, because we have seen like our sort of clinician colleagues trying to do research, but they still have to do their clinic hours as well. And I think it's really rather challenging. But I mean, they all did really, really good research. Not saying that they are not doing good research, but they need to like spend a lot of their free time on research, because now their research became a bit like a hobby, like outside of their clinical work. Yeah, so that's something. So actually I'm researching into cancer. I'm a cancer researcher. My interest so to answer your question of why if you don't know what you want to pick for your future specialty, how does that affect your choice of PhD? So for me, is I was guided by my experience on year 2. So all the while I'm interested in cancer research, but during clinical year I realized that I love radiology. So then I went to search up who in Singapore does radiology research, and there's only one prof that does nuclear medicine research. So that's where I'm currently at now. I'm trying to develop a PET imaging probe for cancer immunotherapy. Yeah. So it's sort of like things, serendipity you got along the way that sort of guides you. But I also must say that a lot of my friends, even though they started off clinical, their HO-ships and their medical officerships with idea of a certain specialty, but end up not going into that specialty altogether. And that's actually very, very common. So I will say that you won't know what you will end up in at the early part of the years, but what I can share about PhD is it is more of a training of a skill set, like intangible and tangible skill sets that helps you to ask certain questions, that helps you to develop a certain scientific idea. And that is something that is actually highly translatable, regardless of which field you end up in the future. So I feel that there is a lot of translatable skill set that you can gain from PhD. But if you're not sure about doing a PhD yet, also you don't have to worry about it now. Just finish your MD or MBBS and pursue your clinical career. And along the way, the clarity will come to you. Like if you decide that, oh, I'm more interested in infectious disease, and there'll always be some question that bugs you at the back of your mind, then that is where you will want to embark on a PhD journey, or even just research without PhD. Yeah. So I think along the way things will get clearer. But yeah, it's always good to be in tune with what you're interested in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great content. I think that really nicely leads into our next part of the program, which is so the speed networking session. And I really mainly want to focus on not placements. It says the PowerPoint will say placement, but just the work environment, wherever you're working, or the things that you've heard about placements in hospital, because it is a big transition going from preclinical to clinical, and having basically an entire world of things happening, and you're the bottom of the bottom. You're the lowest in the hierarchy, right? So let's, I guess, start with the speed networking session, if everyone's okay with that.
Before we do that, Sushang, sorry, can I, is everyone okay with me taking a group photo for our social media? It'll be great if you can turn your cameras on, but if not, that's understandable. Is that all right? Okay.
Just leave a thumbs up if you're okay with that. Awesome.
Great. Okay. I think that should be good. All right, off to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so we'll make this very speedy. So this is our third speed networking session, and the whole point of that is just to know people in other countries as well, especially medical students. Because again, no bias, but I think medical students are amazing. They're kind, passionate, ambitious, adventurous. So it's just a platform for people to connect. And we can make fun of Med as well here. Got some memes for you guys to read in your spare time about OSCEs and all that practice that goes in OSCEs. So starting off with introductions, just one second. Starting off with introduction. So we've already met Kai and Charles, but if you guys can put this in the chat, because instead of going through, I think it'll take a while for us to unmute and speak about it. I think it'll be best if you guys put that in your chat in just one message, what your name is. I mean, we can kind of see that, but your medical year, if you're preclinical, clinical, which country you're in, and the place you're studying, any specialty of interest if you have decided that, and the most important being the Facebook username if you want to connect to other people so that we can message each other. But it's entirely your choice if you want to share that. So I'll give you guys a few seconds to write this in the chat and include your Facebook username if that's something you want to do.
While people are putting things in the chat, we can also just keep passing the ball around and let people just introduce themselves. Any day people who just want to speak up.
Yeah,
Say hi to
for sure.
everyone. Keep
Yeah,
the conversation going.
Yeah, so let's jump onto the topic. So again, like I said, this isn't limited to just placements. You know, you could be a preclinical year, or you could be a researcher, or you could be a doctor. I wanted to explore more about the challenges that you faced when you started or are experiencing right now, and some positive things, some good things that you've seen that are done by doctors, or some systems in play, and some negative or toxic things that we as future medical practitioners would want to change. So yeah, happy for anyone to start sharing if they're done writing in the chat. Awesome. We're getting a lot of introductions in the chat. That's good to see. So I guess, does anyone want to go, or we can, I can just call out a name. Let's see. Kalina, would you like to share about things that you've seen during placement, or things you've heard, or challenges that you faced personally?
Okay, hi. I think I joined the last session. This is my second time.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't start placement yet. I'm in third year. So basically we start placement in fifth year, and then in the sixth year we graduate. So that's basically that. I didn't do any clinical practice yet, but I've done an attachment at the pediatric ward, and I've learned the basics, like, ward rounds and taking patient history and all that. And it was great. I'm still waiting for them to uplift the border restrictions, so I returned back to China. So I'm currently still at home. I just completed my second semester. I'm gonna start my finals next week. Everything's online, so that's basically that. Because we go by a different calendar, I start my fourth year in September. And yeah, it's there. We have, I was initially going to do a placement somewhere up at Compiam. There's a doctor, Dr. Mills, he's an Australian. He's got a clinic there. But because this year we have this election period for them to select a new government, so our country is not so safe for that, traveling and all that. So I won't be doing that placement, probably maybe next year around January, my next semester break. I'll be doing that. So that's about it.
Yeah, you sound pretty busy. A lot to do, and you've got exams coming up as well. Good luck with that. But is there
Thank you
anything
so
that you've heard, like from seniors, the challenges? I know it's a long time for you to still go.
Yeah, for my seniors back in China that are back in China. So we do our internships back in China, right? So we have to learn Mandarin. That way we communicate with our patients. So that's one of the main challenges, learning another language. And yeah, so a lot of students prefer going out to other English-speaking countries to do the internship instead. So maybe language is one of the main, yeah, and then I think research really in China, you can't really do that because of the communication difference there. So some of them prefer to, after graduate, go back to their countries, and then if they get a bridging program there, that's when they go on to do the PhD. For instance, in my country, after I graduate, I can come back here to do a 2 years bridging program, and then I just specialize in whatever I want to do. So basically, when I come back here, I just do like 5th and 6th year all over again, but with my country's curriculum, syllabus, and all that. And then I go into what specialty I want to do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I never really thought about like language being a prereq for you to actually work there, because here you can just like get a translator, like a professional interpreter, if there's a language barrier. So yeah, that is a big challenge. But yeah, hopefully if you do think of pursuing it, yeah, hopefully you'll be sweet and you'll be able to catch the language early. Do you know a bit of Mandarin or?
Yeah, I've been studying it for 3 years now, but like
Okay,
just
so
a
you must be a
bit.
professional. Yeah, that's awesome.
Just
Yeah.
following on from that, very interesting conversation. But my dad actually got me this book called Rural Doctor, Bush Doctors.
Oh,
And
yeah.
this book is actually 16 stories of remarkable doctors who are working in rural and remote areas. And these people have worked in Papua New Guinea, Antarctica, the Northern Territory. Some people have even gone to like South Africa, Kazakhstan. It's a must read. I would highly, highly recommend you all to read this book. Amazing, remarkable stories. And I was reading about this doctor who is actually working in the PNG. His name is, I think, Dr. Barry Kirby. I don't know if he's a renowned or famous person in PNG, Kelvina, but seems like he's done a lot of work there. And it's just very enlightening to see all the stark disparities there. Opening the floor to discussion, like, do people have any sort of role models or things or any sort of experiences in the healthcare system? Or any students who have done placements in interesting areas of the world?
Any rural placements? I'd be really
very rural
interested in
placements as
hearing
well.
about that.
Because Evangeline, I think Evangeline and Sushant did with the John Flynn placement, where you go to rural areas. Like, how is life like there?
Yeah, so for those of us who are not entirely familiar, so there's a program called John Flynn. So it's a scholarship that allows you to attend placements in the rural area across the 4 years of your medical studies. So I was fortunate enough to have that now. So I really enjoyed it. I thought, rural medicine is, first of all, it's really where you're able to serve the underserved. And I got to see a lot of wonderful pathologies in there. Of course, being, in rural health centers, resources are limited, staff is often quite understaffed as well. But as a student, that's when you can really step in and do a lot of things. I got to learn a lot of things I wouldn't have otherwise done here in Canberra. So I absolutely love it. And I love the community culture as well. Just hearing the stories. It's not, an everyday story that you'll hear all the time if you're working in more urban places. Yeah, so I really like it. Yeah.
People from Singapore, do you have any interesting experiences? Are there like rural places where there's stark contrast or disadvantaged populations? Any experiences from there? I don't know, things from your peers or yourself, anything. Or India, yeah, there's people from India as well. Awesome, please talk about it.
Wei, do you want to answer or? Well, I think rural placements, probably not. So Singapore is a city state. So I think, yeah, there's not really a rural population in Singapore. So I would say that we don't really have rural placements. Although I can tell you that people do go overseas, and I think there's an opportunity for like electives. So we do like, we do run like AMSA, and I'm quite sure the AMSA Australia also runs this like exchange program to other countries. So this is one of the ways where students would be able to get an experience on rural medicine or international medicine. Yeah. So not really, we don't really have it.
Just a follow-up. So even though we live in a city country, we don't really have any rural areas. There are actually quite a few underserved community in Singapore, like the elderly population and also the foreign laborers. So there are actually quite a few. I personally wasn't involved in any of this, but there are a few sort of like voluntary kind of clinic that's set up by a doctor in Singapore that serve such community, and this is actually where most of the pre-meds get their volunteering experiences as well. Yeah, so just sharing. I personally went to Indonesia and also Vietnam for medical mission trip. So that was part of Duke NUS Project DAF. So it's like a Duke NUS overseas voluntary expedition trip. So we went to the very rural area in Da Nang, Vietnam, and I feel that rural medicine is something that is very it's a very difficult place to serve, because there are a lot of things you as doctors that come from overseas to that country, to that village for like 1 week. There are a lot of things we couldn't do, and there's also a lot of issues regarding transition of care between, like, for example, if you have to screen something that need to be treated in their local hospital or their clinics, they might not have access to those facilities. So yeah, it's a very difficult place to serve, but it's also a very meaningful place to serve as well. Yeah, just have to work out a lot of issue regarding like how to transit the care to their local doctors, and so that to make sure that the patient are being cared for continuously. Yeah, it's a very tough topic.
Amazing. I've also in the chat, I've put down some opportunities for international students. So just following from our PhD conversations, ANU provides several scholarships to international students in all areas, medicine, engineering, and whatever. So you can apply for that if you're interested and want to come to Australia. If there's any placement or research opportunities for medical students in your country or colleges, please feel free to share here too. This is the platform where we can sort of exchange these ideas and opportunities. Very kindly, Deepthi has put down that she is very happy to be reached out. Over to you, Deepthi.
Yeah, so I'm a hematologist, and although I'm very biased in the field of cancer, not everyone's interested in that, but feel free to reach out to me and I'll connect you with supervisors in your areas of interest if you want.
That's awesome. And yeah, just opening the floor to Kushal. Yeah, Kushal, do you want to share something with us?
Actually, earlier, as we were talking about the rural placement, so I wanted to share some points over it.
You're cutting out a bit.
In India, we can see.
Sorry, can anyone hear Kushal, or is it just me who's cutting out?
Yeah, I think
I was saying that in India there is a.
Oh, Can you unmute yourself, Kushal? I think you're on mute.
Actually, there was some internet connection, disconnection.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
So I was saying that in India there is a rural bonded service after the completion of undergraduate and postgraduate means residency. Yeah, we have to do rural service for 1 to 5 years, depending on the medical college and the administration. So if we don't, then there is a bond agreement. Like in India, it is around 10 to 20 lakhs, which can hike up to 40 lakhs also. So that's mandatory, which we have to do. As we know that in India, we have a primary healthcare center, which has spread all across the country, and where we are posted in tribal areas or hilly areas, in the remotest locations that you can just think of, in the disaster situations also. So yeah, recently only we had a floods disaster in the Assam and West Bengal region. So we were there as a medical camp. We set up and did our services. So it's a gist of how the rural service is happening in India.
And sorry, in which state are you studying medicine?
Well, I am studying in Gujarat.
Gujarat, okay. But you had to go to Assam and West Bengal, did you say, for the floods?
No, actually, we are affiliated to other organizations also, which are private organizations, like medical associations and other organizations. So we are affiliated to them. So they put up posters and interviews and do workshop stuff. So we come, we apply, and then we go to that location. And it's good that all that means time frame of 3 to 5 days or 7 days period, all the arrangements are done by that organization. We have to only give a service.
Okay, so it's free.
Yeah.
The accommodation and all. Okay, that's good to hear. And how was your experience serving during those hard times to the populations?
Well, I got an opportunity in the Gujarat only. So that time the people, actually whenever we set up a medical camp, the enthusiasm that people show to come to the medical camps for the checkups, and we had a wide range of specialties in the medical camp, ranging from the general medicine to the neuro. We also had our 2D echo and those stuff also for the CVS people. So a whole day from morning, from 9 o'clock to evening 5 o'clock, we had a whole day of tiresome medical camp, and lakhs of people came for the checkup. And the main thing that we diagnosed simple disorders like hypertension, or diabetes, which people are unaware of that they are facing from it, and we give them medications and give them about the lifestyle changes also. So this stuff, I like it, and I also enjoy going to medical camps because it's a duty rather than only if we see like a service. It's a duty to help people.
Yeah, that's awesome. I 100% agree with you. I think that's the whole point of medicine, is to serve the people who really need it, who are really suffering, and they don't have access to it. So wonderful work, Kushal. I really liked what you shared.
Just in the chat box, I've also added some links to some great organizations that are doing work in remote places. So there's Mobile 1000 Initiative, which is in India. I don't know if you've heard about it, Kushal. So their aim is to run about 1,000 mobile clinic vans and provide free primary health care to 25 million something Indians living in rural India. And I'm sure medical students will be involved with that as well. Are there opportunities for overseas students to be involved with such sort of campaigns?
Yes, it is open for overseas students also and for the Indian students also. You can apply, you can join. Also, there are many research programs which doesn't have any, what I can say, restriction to overseas or Indian student. Anyone can apply, anyone can do the work, and they can achieve the scholarships or fellowship program.
Wow, that's beautiful. If you can share any links to that, that'd be great in the chat or howsoever. Similarly, there's another organization, YWAM Medical Ships, that operate from Australia, and they go to Papua New Guinea to remote populations over there. I don't know if you've heard about it, Kelvina, but they do take on medical students. I know of some Australian medical students who've gone, healthcare professionals, and probably it's open to overseas students as well. Worth inquiring if you're interested in those sorts of things. Oh, that's great, Deepthi. Quite a few students from ANMS have gone to India. There have been Singapore, PNG, anyone if you know of. Fiji too. Yeah, there's a Fiji Village project that runs from ANU to Fiji, where students go for 2-week placements. Yeah, lots of amazing opportunities there. Over
That's
to you,
awesome,
Sushant.
guys. Yeah, that's awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much. I don't want to overextend the time. Thank you so much for giving your time. And I think these were one of the best discussions I've had in a long time. And it's great to see all the amazing work you guys are doing. I'll just pop in my information as well. I just realized that I didn't put my information in. So I'd love to be connected through Facebook through you guys and hopefully meet in person one day as well. So this is the end. These are the closing remarks. If you want to say something, completely fine, but we will try to get these out as well. All the links that we've put in, the information we've put in, as well as everyone's social media, we'll put them out so that people can still stay connected if they want to. Okay, thank you so much for joining, guys, and hope you have a wonderful day or night, depending on where you are.
And thanks to our lovely speakers as well for sharing your story.
Yeah, really enjoyed that.
We've
Thank
got
you,
one more
everyone.
subscriber, Kai. I'll subscribe to your channel.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome. Thanks, Charles. Thanks, Kai. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.
If I can have the team just stay over for a little while more. Okay. Thanks, Kushal. All right. Awesome. How did that go, everyone? Just feedback, thoughts.
Yeah, it would have been good too. I think it was great from what we wanted to achieve. Would have been good if you had more engagement, hoping for at least like 25 to 30 participants.
Yeah.
So I think we can work on the social media and promote side a bit more. But I think that was a great session. Yeah, what do you guys think?
I loved it. I thought, Charles was an amazing presenter. So thanks, Dia, for recommending him. And I also like that he brought, a couple of his colleagues as well. It really helps to kind of create that engaging atmosphere. And yeah, I liked both you, Dia and Sushant, for really taking it on and just kind of going with the flow. Yeah, I really like it. Yeah.
I thought you guys were amazing.
Deepthi, I think it was very helpful to have you actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only PhD.
Yeah.
Sorry. I think we should invite a few more of the
Mentors.
ANU academic.
That's what I was thinking. Not just ANU academic, but if we can get like people from Indonesia and whatnot, we need mentors from other countries as well as from Australia to join. So that students are engaging and talking, but then you guys can provide us that long-term insights like, oh, we've done this, we've been here before, we know how it is, do this, don't do this.
Yeah. Can I suggest, if Kelvina has joined twice now, get her to do the her or him, her.
Oh,
Oh yeah, ask her
Oh,
to
no.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Han is him.
have to get the pronouns right. But you can ask ask him, her to present next time, and ask her to invite her supervisors and co-students. And likewise, you can reach out to those who joined in from India to share their story. I think this is what we need to do more of.
I think that's what I'm hoping Muskan can help with: communication, collaboration, sort of expanding the reach of Link as much as possible. Of course, everyone will be helping, but she'll be sort of I'm hoping, the lead.
Paritosh in just to let him know that the session's over. Hi, Paritosh. The session's actually over, but we hope you can join next time.
A recording will be available as well. So if you want to watch it in your own time, we'll update